IPMNation.com.
Counterpunch promo live in 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Counterpunch Media Studio in Columbus, Ohio, this is All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy, brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is not a drill.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good evening once again and welcome. Thank you for stopping by what is now the 421st episode of the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com. Of course, I'm talking about All Natural Being and the gong heard around the world. Broadcast as it happens, regardless of what the little lights say. Broadcast as it happens, thanks to our good friends at Telestream's Wirecast, live from the Counterpunch Media Studios here in Columbus, Ohio, and broadcast directly to IPMNation.com and multicast live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also over on MortalUp.com. And, of course, our Brian Brawdy app with the rebroadcast going down on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. You get the drift of that. Greetings wherever you are, here in the garden of the mortals, the labyrinth of life itself, the ups and downs, the lefts, the rights, the pivots, the swerves, the flukes, the whims, the sheer havoc of the synchronicity and serendipity of it all. Blind alleys and cul-de-sacs, sure, no doubt, but never a dead end, unless you and I decide first to tap out. Until then, what say you and I always put our heart's highest priority top of the list? End of discussion. Always calling on our true wit and wisdom and wallop of our inner whisper. And it's a good thing to be able to rely on that, because we're here to out-brutal the brutal that is the cut and shuffle that fate can deal us on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold once and for all. I think that's absolutely important. I put up a little thing today that says, look, do you have the temperament for the tipping point that's coming? But before we hit this evening, a quick hello to my friends and those joining us from all over the globe. It's great to have you here this evening. I truly am fired up to be driving your bandwagon, to be avidly you, to be your biggest fan, to be your virtual hitchhiker if you're out and about on the go. I love that. I love thinking, I got to run to the grocery store. I got to do this. I got to do that. I'm heading out to dinner. I love it. Just throw me in a cup holder. We're ready to go. So what do you say? Wherever you're getting the show this evening, here's your opportunity to mortal up, to crush your cants and smack your critics while you're at it, to demand that your mind's eye and your true potential live wide open. No governors, wide open. So let's go kick in some doors. And we have a very special show this evening. A lot of things to get to right off the bat. But I also wanted you to know that we have a very special guest calling in before too long this evening, and we'll get to all that. You may have heard about the shooting in my old hometown, one of my old hometowns of Aurora, Illinois. We've got a firsthand report on all that went down last week, and some good news to come. It's hard to say good news came out of that, but a little sliver of light that comes out of the tragedy that was that shooting. Also, I want to let you know, I feel a little bit like Bill Murray in Groundhog. The alarm clock goes off, and he says to the The groundhog, don't drive angry, don't drive angry. We had 3 episodes today recorded of the Copy That Speaks with Mr. Lee Rowley, so we were able to get in and bang out those 3 episodes this morning. So when I came down here, I go, man, it seems like I just did this not too long ago. And in fact, we had, right? We had just, we had been here all day long pulling that off. So I want to thank everyone that participated in that. Thank, of course, Lee Rowley himself for being here, and our guests that were on today, Pradeep and Kim and Joe, most certainly 3. I learned a ton, so if you happen to be listening or you're going to bump into this later, thank you so very much. It truly was an education, and you know me. I dig that, so thank you very much for that. All right, I also wanted to say, people keep asking me, you still doing the prayer bowls? Yes, I am. So we have 6 shares, I guess, already. So 4, 3. Oh, 3. Look at me and my math. I don't work at a bank, thank goodness, huh? 4, 5. There's number 6. Let me jump here in the thread. Candace, good evening. Kathy, good evening. Thank you so very much for joining us. David Raymond, did you put those glasses on so you could take them off? Boy, I wish that were the case, brother. Ever since this brain tumor, my eyes are just weird. They just bug out. I wish that were the case. I do. I'd like to take them off for good, I'll tell you, and just be done with them. But it's weird. The vision seems to come and go with the swelling, I got to tell you. Good evening. Lee says he had a fantastic time. Well, thank you, brother. Wayne, thank you for everything that you're doing. Appreciate it very much. So I wanted to make mention of this evening very quickly before our guest calls. With everything with this Jesse Smollett or whatever the hell he calls himself, however you pronounce that last name. Where there's a big thing, before the news broke, that just all of the news around it, before that all broke, there were newscasters, and, some on CNN, some on MSNBC, some, the different places that they get your news. But one individual in particular, let me say hi to Jamie real quick. Hi, Jamie. She says, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. One individual in particular, and I don't want to throw her under the bus. That's not what this is about. I believe she would make our Low Lifes Making Headlines segment if we were doing that segment, but we're not, so I won't use her name. But she basically was talking about, this alleged hate crime, although she didn't. I don't believe she called it alleged, if my memory serves me right. But the hate crime and the racist, homophobic undertones, blah, 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 blah. And this is what happens, with the president in power, President Trump and this and that. And she looks right in a very forlorn kind of way. She looks right at the camera and goes, well, this is America in 2019. And puts her head down almost like she's going to bawl. So then I thought, when I heard of this story and the guest that's calling in tonight, when I heard about the good that first responders, I expected the story of the first responders, but some of the people that responded to help the first responders, that's the story of America in 2019. That, in fact, is the story of the world in 2019. And there's certain people that are absolutely hell-bent on making us think that we just live in a crappy world. And that, in fact, is not the case. So our guest tonight is going to talk a little bit about something that he and his company did to help the people that ran towards the sound of gunfire. So I'm very happy to do that. And if it's my attempt to slap back at the media that says, oh, well, racist and homophobic, and we got this war and that war, and everybody hates everybody, just the whole thing of identity politics from these brainiacs. This is America 2019. Well, it's nice to have a feel-good story, so that's what we're going to focus on this evening. Let me say hello to Tim Creasy. Tim, thank you, brother, for joining us, watching All Natural Being or listening to All Natural Being, wherever you are, out and about. And for those of you that have heard me give a shout out before to Tim, I start off every day with my coffee in the Yeti thermos, the Yeti coffee mug that he sent me. So Tim, thank you very much for that. And speaking of mornings, that's going to become a real big deal now on March 4th, because we'll be kicking off our show 7 a.m. Eastern. And so I'm going to be relying on that, I'm going to be relying on that coffee mug. So, Tim, thank you very much. As always, super appreciate it. Candace says, I hope the media learned a lesson from this and the Sandman case which I doubt. Hope that kid gets the $250 million. You know what? He might very well, regardless of what Judge Napolitano thinks, he might very well get that money. Yes, Tim, thank you very much. Heather, good evening. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about this evening was that, and you know, especially if you buy into the media, especially if you watch everything that's going on now, all the different reports, it's easy to believe that life just stinks. It's easy to believe that everything we've got going on is not all that much. It's easy to buy in when you hear it over and over. And I talk about like a speed bag, right? It's easy to believe in all this crap about identity politics, but there are great people everywhere. A lot of people here in the thread, but there are great situations everywhere. Is it true that evil exists? Is it true that fate does what it can to chop block us whenever it can? Absolutely. But to say that this is America 2019 or this is the world 2019 where people they just seem hell-bent. They're no longer. I mean, it still fascinates me, right, that actors who make a living lying, and then everyone's running around with their hair on fire because, wait a minute, wait for it, hold it. An actor lies. Well, how could he ever? That's what he does for a living. He gets paid $60,000 a pop to lie. So it's easy when you buy into this identity politics to think, oh, well, you know, maybe we really are a mean people. Maybe we really are a horrible country. Maybe this is really a horrible time to be alive. I think it's the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive. I say that to my family and friends. I've said it here in the thread all the time. I think it's an absolutely amazing time to be alive. Kathy says there are wonderful people out there. Get out and meet them. Kathy, I absolutely agree. Let's go ahead and take our call. Good evening. Thank you for calling All Natural Being. Who's this?
This is Bob Lockwood. How are you doing?
Bob Lockwood, brother. How are you? Good. Well, let me say to everyone who this is and how you and I know each other, and then I want to jump right in to the story that you were telling me yesterday, because I think it's just absolutely huge, Bob. I really do. So let me say quickly, Candace says Smollett case is absolutely awful. Ellie spent hours, media jumping in too quick. Well, you know, the media did jump into this like caddies in the pool in Caddyshack, Candace. I'll give you that. But now let me just say, in the interest of full disclosure, 421 episodes ago, I started this little idea of a radio show called All Natural Being, and I started it in a public venue in Aurora, Illinois with my good friend Bob Lockwood. Made him get up bright and early in the morning, drag himself down to the studio, and we were off. Yep. And Bob, does it still surprise you that through the brain tumors, through all the brain surgeries, through everything going on in the world, does it still surprise you that this 421 episodes later, I think you and I, we stuck it out for like a week sitting there in that storefront window. Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like a Christmas float in the Thanksgiving Day parade or something. You know what I mean?
Basically, got nothing else to do with your time, right?
That's right. Right? I can't get anyone else to play with me, so I figured why not broadcast my inability to get along with other folks. That sounds perfect. Good evening, Marcellus. Thank you for joining us. So everyone, I want you to know that I've known Bob Lockwood, been a dear friend of mine for a long period of time, helped me start All Natural Being, this show way back when. But that's not, I just didn't have him on. If I wanted to brag about that, he was on with us in the 24-hour marathon. So if all we were going to talk about is what he did to help me in the very beginning launch this show, he was the co-host for the first 5 days. But Bob, could you catch everyone up? Like, and I preface this, I don't know if you were listening to the show before you called in, but, you know, all the media types going, you know, just hanging their head, just very forlorn, shaking their heads going, this is, you know, racist, homophobic, identity politics this, identity politics that. We're triggered, we're outraged, we're offended, thin skins wrapped in, you know, or hotheads wrapped in thin skins, all of this, you know, the balsa wood brains, all this stuff. And one particular reporter in the media last week just shook her head and said, this is America 2019. And I thought about that a lot. And then when I spoke to you yesterday and I heard you're getting all kinds of great media coverage about it, there's some really good stuff going on in America as well. It's not all just the doom and gloom that the purveyors of identity politics would have us believe. So having said that,
Yeah,
can you go ahead and catch
I,
us up on what's going on?
Yeah. So, what do you want me to catch you up on? Like on what our story was?
Well, to catch me up a little bit in case people are listening and they don't understand. Talk to me, if you would, very quickly.
Yeah.
As hard as it is to do
yeah.
about the shooting, what happened.
Yeah. So,
obviously, our best goes out to all the families, but a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we had a workplace shooting about a week and a half or a week ago. It was a block and a half away.
Okay.
And we were a pretty large venue. I run an entertainment center called Luigi's Pizza and Fun Center, and we're large. We just have a big space. And they called in a massive amount of police and law enforcement and first responders. I mean, it was, I can't even explain to you all the first responders. I mean, we had Bolingbrook and Oak Brook and Naperville and sheriff and,
Sure.
Illinois State Troopers, ATF, we had FBI, and I mean, just a plethora
Sure.
of of law enforcement. Red Cross, and that's not law enforcement, that's first responders.
Sure.
So they came, they said, hey, we're going to need to use a place. Would you mind? Can we use one of your rooms? I said, yeah. It's just they kept coming in. I said, I think we're going to need a bigger area.
We're going to need a bigger area. And you have a huge parking lot. You have a huge parking lot, if I remember. I mean, it's massive. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine they'd stage it right out of there.
Yeah, they staged it, but it was cold. So they wanted to bring everybody in.
Right.
That was the main thing. If it was probably a nice summer day, they'd be like, yeah, let me go hang outside. Yeah. But they wanted to bring everybody in. And
you'd be selling Italian ice.
We ended up, yeah, exactly. And so we closed our doors, but we opened them to the first responders, and we fed them and gave them pizzas. And people from Henry Pratt came over to be interviewed. They got pizzas, and we fed them free of charge. We didn't charge a dime, and people were so grateful and thankful. I still believe that there's a lot of great people out there.
Sure.
And I think probably the media just likes to sensationalize the bad people, but occasionally they'll find a good story.
Sure. And you're most certainly one of them. So now, when they had decided to close down, Bob, you were one of the voices, if I remember listening to the story correctly, you were one of the voices that said, no, why don't we stay open and help these first responders? Because it just wasn't law enforcement. There were ambulance folks there. If I remember, tragically, 5 people lost their lives that day?
Yeah, 5 people.
So, and there were people injured?
Yeah.
I mean, so there was all kinds
of
law
enforcement. A lot of law enforcement. About 5 of them were injured.
Were injured as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a strategic. We chit chatted about it. And it's like, okay, what is our protocol? Because we really didn't have a protocol.
Well, why would you? Right? You wouldn't think within a block of the store that you're going to have a mass shooting. Right? Yeah. Why would you have a protocol? All right. So then what did you decide? In that moment when you knew people started filing in, did you know right away what had happened? Did it take you a few minutes? How did you come to know what had gone down?
Well, at first we thought it was like my boss called it a skirmish, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Like a practice.
Oh,
like some type of
all right.
Like
drill.
Like a training.
A training or a drill. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So at first we thought, and then BB, I had like 5 ambulances in front of our facility, like lined up in the fire lane. And then the officer said, hey, this facility's on lockdown. Nobody in or out. And later we find out that the ambulances were there for staging crew. I thought they were there to like block the windows,
Right.
But
sure.
But they were a staging crew for the ambulances. I mean, the massive response. I mean, it was the quickest response they've ever had to anybody.
Okay.
So it was really fantastic in that regard. I mean, it was just wow, it's incredible.
Sure.
The sergeant, or not the sergeant, but the chief of police said, "We play like we practice."
Oh wow! Well, that's good to know.
I loved that line, and I was like, I have to, remember that because that's a great line. We play like we practice.
Well, Bob, I would
and,
offer to you the beauty
you know,
of this story, at least in my mind, was that you couldn't have practiced to be able to play like this, but you rose to the occasion, and the people at Luigi's were like, look, yeah, they told us to go ahead and close, but you were probably back there yourself making pizzas and subs and manning the Diet
Yeah.
Coke or the Diet Pepsi station, whatever it is,
yeah,
right?
We're Pepsi products.
Pepsi product. Okay, well, then Tab, Sprite, whatever it is,
Yeah,
right? Let me make sure I get the plug in right. But
Yeah, right, exactly.
but so you guys are back there manning it, even though you were closed, even though it was just no one was coming in or out. You gave a place when it was cold, and first responders are there, and obviously they needed to use the washroom, the restroom. They were hungry, they were thirsty,
Yep.
and I thought it spoke. Because I've always known you to be a stand-up guy, but now you're a stand-up guy at a stand-up business doing what it can to help first responders. Because it's a different breed of folk, to be honest with you, that run towards the sound of gunfire, right? Like when people talk about first responders, I get it. I really do. And then you take a step back and go, wait a minute, what does a first responder really mean? Most of the times they go balls to the wall, red lights, sirens, everything. Yep. Let me say quickly, Bob, hello to Marie. Marie, thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. But first responders really just go all out to get to the sound, whether it's the sound of gunfire or get to the fire or the car accident. They put their lives on the line to do nothing more than to save human life. And they don't always get the good press that they deserve. And I was just thrilled knowing you. It didn't surprise me. I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was thrilled to hear of what, and it's called Luigi's Pizza and Fun Center. Can you give me the address there in Aurora in case anyone is listening?
It's 732 Prairie Street.
In Aurora, okay.
In Aurora. So, yeah. So,
and Candace says, that is so great, Bob. Thanks for sharing. That's from Candace here in the thread, Bob. So, just for you to be able to do that and to supply the first responders, like I said, with food and a place to clean up and something to drink and just hang out, it speaks volumes of you and it speaks volumes of your company. And it comes at a time, as I say, where everyone in the media is like, oh, well, that's America 2019. And for people listening to our show around the world, I know we have people listening tonight from Australia. We have people listening from England and the like. But it's not just that's America 2019. It's the world 2019. There are good people that do what they can with what they have to help other human beings. And it didn't surprise me at all. So what else is going on? I'm assuming they got the shooter, right? He was one of the casualties.
They did.
Okay.
They ended up terminating him.
Okay.
So he was killed, now we're just in a place of healing.
Sure.
And the city has stepped up. They're doing a whole big fundraiser type thing for the families and the officers.
Now, did I see, Bob, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did I see in the feed, I shared something the other day that was a GoFundMe. Is that the same GoFundMe that's helping the families of the people that were killed?
No, that was actually a different GoFundMe. So we had an outpouring of people that night.
Okay.
Said, hey, because they saw this one photo that's been all over the place. All these, you can see my dining room filled with all these officers and sheriffs, all sorts of stuff. And they said, well, we want to help. We want to buy pizza. And we had no mechanism. We were not prepared for that. And they said, well, just contact our Facebook. And we created a GoFundMe. And what we're going to do is we're going to close down again on the 7th of April for the first responders and their families to come and have a day of fun.
Oh, great. Great.
It'll be a private event. We've never closed down, like that.
Right. So, Bob, let me interrupt again just to get this straight. So you're saying that even as the story got out there, it wasn't just you and the good folks at Luigi's that were trying to do everything they could. Other people learned about it, and they were like, well, I want to donate. I want to do what I can to help. I want to buy pizzas or pop, or I want to help in any way that I can. So you got a flood of calls from people wanting to do that. So the GoFundMe page then will go towards what's going to go down on this party in April, or how does that work specifically? Okay.
Yeah. So it's really expensive to run an entertainment center. So so we're going to close it down. So that's why we said, okay, if you want to help,
Sure.
let's raise some money and let's
That's great.
give them. I mean, these first responders. I mean, you were a first responder. You know exactly how it is.
Sure.
I mean, it'd be nice to go have a day
Sure.
to play
Sure.
and have
Sure.
a park to yourself. Or
Well, it
you
is
know, or
it is
do
Luigi's
lines,
Pizza.
right?
It is Luigi's Pizza and Fun Center.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right?
there you go. Right.
So
It's not like Luigi's Pizza
so-
and Boredom Center. It's not Luigi's Pizza and, there's absolutely no place else you could go and nothing to do, so why don't you just drag your butt in here, Center, right? It's not that.
Exactly.
So that'd be cool. Okay, so let me put you on the spot now that you're on live.
Yeah.
When this event goes down on the 7th of April, what day of the week is it?
That's a Sunday. So
It's a Sunday.
a semi-busy day for us. So
All right.
it's a day that I
Imagine.
think that most first responders come out.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
will you do me a
so-
favor? The 8th is Monday morning. We'll be live. We're going back to mornings. We're going to go back
wow.
to do the Lockwood. Yeah, we're going to start back March 4th. We're going to be live from 7 on, whenever we get tired. But from 7 in the morning. So, a.m., yes, sir. So on April 8th, will you call back in and let us know how the party on the 7th went?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would
I
be
will
great.
definitely do so.
That would be great. Well, Bob, I promised I wouldn't hold you a whole lot longer than I have, and we're getting ready to wrap here. But, brother, I want people to know that I know you as a human being. So, like I said, none of this surprises me about you, right? None of it surprises me about you, knowing the way you are. But that Luigi stood up to the plate and did what they could to help everyone, and the community itself did everything that it could to want to say, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. So congrats to you, and congrats.
Community has been amazing.
Fantastic.
I just have to say.
And will you put in the thread here another post, or you put the link for the GoFundMe page, the one that I saw in there, to put that right in the post, so as we wrap, we can talk about that, and people that are interested can help there as well. But Bob, thank you, not just for the calling in, but for everything that you did, and the folks at Luigi's did that day, and obviously everything the first responders did, neutralizing the bad guy, and obviously our thoughts go out to the families of you just never know, brother. You know what I mean? You just don't know. So
I mean, you're absolutely right. So hey, thank you so much for having me on the air. It's always great hanging out with you.
Yes,
So,
all right,
it's like old
Bob.
times.
Yes, it is. All right, brother. Thanks for everything. We'll talk to you soon. All right, man.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye
All
now.
right, bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Bob Lockwood from Luigi's Pizza and Fun Center. Some address, I don't remember what it was, but it's in Aurora, Illinois. Let me say hello quickly to Matt Connerton. Matt, thank you for joining us. Candace says, boo, I'm not a morning person. Well, let me tell you this, Candace, we can listen to the podcast. So you listen to the podcast if you like. iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, this and that. Wayne says, Chicago pizza versus New York. Well, there you go. I just know it's a great place, a nice little restaurant, and a huge arcade and fun center and everything else from the times I've been in it. But there you go. There's my attempt to say that everyone in the media going, America 2019. No, we're not a bunch of racist homophobes and this and that. We're not a bunch of bad people. We're not into identity politics. And as Bob said, here's people calling in going, I want to buy a couple large pizzas. I want to buy some pies. I want to take care of the first responders. So it just wasn't the folks there at Luigi's. It was everyone in the community calling in and going, and who knows, maybe they got calls from all over the place. But I wanted to talk to Bob tonight and have him as a part of the show just to remind everybody, we're not as bad as a race. The human race is not as bad as some people. I have dear friends that I love tremendously that are in the media. So when I say media, I'm not saying all media, right? You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't paint with that broad a brush. But some outlets in the media are just hell-bent on starting a war, and they're using identity politics to do it. So I got a little bit of identity politics for you this evening. How about people that did everything they could to help the first responders during a very troubling time? All right, so Bob Lockwood, thank you so very much for calling in. Hopefully you'll throw up here in the thread that GoFundMe campaign. If not, I'll do it when we get off. So we're going to be wrapping it here in just a bit. We will be back Sunday night. Matt Connerton will be here for Sneak Speak. We had a great time last week with Rob from Rob and Slim, another radio show over on IPM Nation. We'll be back Sunday night for that. And Derek Noel will be back Sunday night with me, kind of whipping me into shape kind of thing. So we'll be doing that this coming Sunday night, but it's Thursday night, which means we get Friday and Saturday off. One more week of being in the evenings, and then we will go back to how we started 400 and some odd episodes all that time ago. We will go back to mornings. Candace says, in a crisis situation, everyone will jump in to help, but some have a short memory. Sad to say, Candace, I absolutely agree. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening at All Natural Being. And until we hang again next time, which will be Sunday night, remember to get out there, bring your own bold, flex your best, and always lead by putting your heart's highest priority top of the list. We'll see you Sunday night.
IPMNation.com.